everybody. Thank you for joining us, whether you're hanging out with us live or watching this recording later. My name is Corey McNeil. I am your product manager on the Department of Public Instruction for Canvas and Go Open NC. We're excited you're joining us this evening on our, this is our last one, believe it or not, in this series of kind of webinars in the evenings, and we're talking about Mastery Pass. And so we have Lorianne with us this evening, who's been gracious to come hang out with us on her Thursday nights. So thank you so much, and I'll turn it over to you.
I'm gonna miss you guys. I can't believe it's our last one already. Feels like we just got started. All right, I'm gonna share my screen really quickly, and I'm gonna remember to share the sound. How do I do that again, Corey?
That's a great question.
So I know it's here. Wait, I think I see it. Share your audio. You just gotta click the little thing. Okay, awesome. I'm gonna share my second screen, and we should be good to go. Okay, so you should hopefully see my Canvas course over here, right?
We're good.
Okay, excellent. Let me go ahead and get my PowerPoint up and running. We're going to start with the PowerPoint, and then we're going to move into the Canvas course. So super excited about this. All right, so here we go. Okay, so everyone, hi. So glad to be here. I hope you've enjoyed our series that we've been working on Thursday nights for the past few months. Tonight we're here to talk about personalized learning with Mastery Pass, one of my favorite parts of working in Canvas. So just a quick intro to who I am. My name is Lorianne Stickler. I am a learning associate with Canvas. I have experience almost 30 years now in education in the state of Florida. I have experience working with, everyone from grades K to 12. I also have some experience as a district administrator, rolling out Canvas throughout the district. So super excited to be here to share my knowledge of Mastery Pass and hopefully learn a few things from you guys as well. So let's yes.
Sorry, we just see your Canvas.
Really? It didn't share? Oh, geez. Okay, let me stop it again. Sorry.
You're fine.
Test bar. Forgot that WebEx does that to me. Can't find WebEx. Well, okay. Let me just X out my PowerPoint. WebEx is buried. I don't know how that happened. Sorry, you guys. I'm glad we're nice and intimate here. So let's see. It is very deep. Okay, just a second. And it's the end of the day, so you have about 400 windows open. Anybody else experience that? I cannot find the WebEx. What's going on?
Let's see. I'm gonna try and
do me a favor and share your screen, Corey, and then let's see if it'll pop out. Sometimes that'll happen. It's like I've lost my controls here, and I don't know why. Let's stop over here, maybe. Okay, I see your screen. All right, let me try that again. I'll put my PowerPoint up this time. Maybe that will help.
I know WebEx is everyone's favorite tool, so thank you for bearing with us.
Oh, I hate when this happens because you're just like, oh goodness, this really looks great. But thank you everybody for sticking with me. Okay, I'm going to share my sound as well, and I think I should have it ready now. Let's see, screen 2. Here we go. Yeah, you see my agenda?
There we go.
Excellent. All right, thank you, Corey. I appreciate you stopping me on that one. All right, so as I was saying, what we're going to work on tonight is just looking at the agenda. We're going to talk a little bit about personalized learning and kind of get the pedagogical shift, around what it is and how you can use it with Mastery Pass and Canvas. We're going to talk about the benefits of implementing personalized learning and how Mastery Pass will directly support your efforts to make that pedagogical shift. So moving into the next slide. So we talk about, what is personalized learning? I personally have a definition of my own. which is, it's basically an instructional approach that empowers students to build ownership over their learning. For me, the goal of personalized learning is to promote student ownership. And you can see some of the keywords there on the slide, right? Customized learning, tailoring the preferences and interests of various learners, making sure that it's paced to a student's unique needs. All of those things are really at the heart of personalized learning. And the benefits, again, for me, is just the fact that the students begin to take ownership over their learning rather than me as the teacher delivering and saying, this is what I want you to do and just do it. It's now, the student is realizing, oh, how I score on a pretest will definitely determine my path to get me to mastery of my skills. I'd like to share just a quick video from some experts that I know very well. I've worked with them with multiple districts, and it's educational elements. And it's really just a quick video that talks about what personalized learning is. I like to let the experts share their experience because they're going to say it much more eloquently than I am. So let me click this.
We've all been there. We're moving on at the end of the unit to the next grading period, but some students are farther ahead than others, and some are much farther behind than we would like. This can happen when you give the exact same lesson in the exact same format to every student, regardless of their individual learning styles. This is where personalized learning comes in. PL can help make learning more relevant to students and provides the flexibility that allows learning and the demonstration of that learning to be meaningful for every student. In this video, we're defining what personalized learning means, giving you an overview of what it can look like in your classroom, and describing the impact it can have. Hi, I'm Courtney Flanders. Welcome to our personalized learning series on our channel. Each week in October and November, we'll be sharing more about what personalized learning is and what it can look like in your classroom. If this is right up your alley and you want to learn more, make sure to subscribe and hit that bell so you get notified each time a new video is up. So what exactly is personalized learning? At Education Elements, we define personalized learning as an instructional approach that empowers students to build ownership of their learning. This means that educators target instruction, foster collaboration and creativity, facilitate student goal setting and reflection, and design flexible learning experiences, all while providing a nurturing learning environment. Whoa, that sounds like a lot, and we're going to break down each one of those components. What I just shared is what we call the core four. We use this to identify the practices, mindsets, knowledge, and priorities that best personalize learning for students. Again, what's powerful here is that when you shift to personalized learning, you're moving away from teacher-directed lessons toward a learning experience that is centered around the student. This means that you as the educator need to have a deep understanding of your students' strengths, needs, identities, backgrounds, and learning styles. In the upper left-hand corner of our Core 4 of Personalized Learning, you'll see student reflection and goal setting. Practicing reflection and goal setting can help students make connections between the choices they make in class and their learning goals. There's tons of ways to do this in the classroom, but one way you can start is by making time for simple prompting questions like these at the end of a lesson or after an assessment. Next to student reflection and goal setting, we have targeted instruction. This means that in addition to being able to articulate what instruction they receive and why, students have some say over the instruction they receive based on their data, preferences, and passions. Often this begins with teachers doing most of the work to target instruction, but as you and your students get more comfortable, you'll see students taking the agency to advocate for themselves, the instruction they need, the resources that would best support them, and the ways they're going to learn best. In a classroom, this might look like a math teacher gathering data to give her information about an upcoming lesson. With that data, the teacher can see who hasn't yet mastered the necessary concepts to be successful in this upcoming standard. Once she has that data, she can pull students for a small group, bringing them into a mini lesson to build up the necessary foundational skills in order for them to be successful. In all of this, students know where they are and what instruction they're receiving, and they also know where they have opportunities for choice so that they can begin to take agency and ownership over their learning. Now, sometimes there's a misconception that personalized learning only involves students working independently for the majority of the time. But in reality, personalized learning is filled with collaboration and creativity. It encourages students to work with one another, share ideas, create new solutions and projects, provide feedback to one another, and in the process, learn more about themselves. We all know that the students don't have to take the exact same path to get to their destination. This is why a flexible path and pace is another part of the Core 4. Students learn in different ways, so when teachers leverage materials and resources to provide options to students in the ways that they learn, the path that they take, the pace that they go, it provides an opportunity to really personalize the learning for students. No one instructional technology or material is going to do this alone. It's all about the environment that you set up and the opportunities that you have for students to engage in different types of learning. You might have seen a pattern in everything I just shared. At the center of it all is student ownership. That's ultimately the goal of personalized learning. This is done by building positive relationships with students, and choosing the right strategies, format, and balance of components will foster ownership of the learning with your students. We barely touched the surface of what it means to personalize learning in this video. Subscribe to our channel for our personalized learning series. We'll dive deeper into each element of the Core 4, student ownership, and nurturing learning environments, and we'll show you exactly what it can look like in the classroom in our upcoming episodes. In the meantime, you can download our free Core 4 of Personalized Learning white paper on our website at edelements.com. If you have any questions, reach out to me, Courtney at edelements.com. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next episode. We've all been there. We're moving.
Okay, so Courtney is one of my favorite people at Ed Elements. I actually worked with her in a district a few years ago, and it's funny, as I've seen that video many times, right? And I'm listening to her speak, and I just wrote down targeted instruction, because all of a sudden I heard and I was like, well, that's exactly what Mastery Paths is going to support your teachers with, or us, we teachers, is targeted instruction. You know, she said that targeted instruction can be based on, you know, interest, but it can also be based on scores, and that's where we're going to go today. So before I move forward, I just kind of want to ask in the chat, or since we're a small group, if you want to open up your mic and say something. When you think of personalized learning, what comes to mind for you? Anybody want to share? I see a student ownership piece coming into the chat. Yep. And Corey, I'm going to depend on you for the chat, because it pops on my screen and then it's gone. So I'll depend on you to support. Thank you. So definitely the student ownership, right? Again, just the targeted instruction piece is what we're going to, I hope, walk away with tonight, the realization how Mastery Paths can make that targeted instruction just so natural and so easy for us as teachers, and then more importantly for our students. All right, so let's think about, you know, why personalized learning? Why do we personalize learning, right? So, you know, pandemic has taught us a lot about using technology, you know, at a distance, face to face, hopefully in a blended environment as we came back into schools. And we know that as a teacher, technology can be like the greatest thing in my classroom. And this sometimes it can get in the way, right? So we as teachers, we have a responsibility to really figure out how to employ our technology meaningfully and properly. And when we do that, we can help educators deliver differentiated, individualized, and personalized instruction. It can help a teacher facilitate timely intervention responses. It can involve parents and guardians or family members more in their children's learning. We can empower school leaders with the data to support teachers and either break down problems or make those problems more complex depending on the individual needs of the student. It's definitely, as you see the keywords on the screen, it's data-driven. It increases motivation, student ownership at the center of everything, increased engagement, and improved performance. That's the goal, right? So anytime we're making a pedagogical shift, right, it's always important for us to bring in research. And our use in Mastery Paths is directly aligned to the ISTE standards. Now, I understand that in North Carolina, I believe you guys have the digital learning competencies, right? And I think
that's exactly right.
Okay, those are derived from ISTE, right? So we're all speaking the same language, whether we're looking at ISTE or your I think you had an acronym, it's the DLCs, I think you said. So all of those are derived from ISTE standards. And when you're thinking about personalized learning with Mastery Paths, it really comes down to two standards. We're looking at the designer and we're looking at the facilitator. So let's look at the designer in regard to personalized learning, right? So the designer standard in Canvas, we want to create, adapt, and personalize learning. So as a course designer and any teacher that's using Canvas, you're already designing the learning environment inside Canvas, right? So when we get into the personalized learning aspect of it and we get into the use of mastery paths, it's really about designing authentic learning activities that are aligned as usual to our content area standards, right? We're creating innovative digital learning environments that engage and support learning. And we're doing it in such a way that we're giving students as much of a unique pathway as we can to get to that mastery of skill. Thinking about the facilitator, once you have it into your Canvas course, then what do I do as the facilitator of this learning, right? My role as the teacher is to manage the use of technology. I try to create learning opportunities that employ learning strategies to challenge my student so that they are innovating and solving problems and using the design process and computational thinking in order to innovate and solve problems. So it's all of that active learning that's aligned to the technology integration matrix, right? Over on the right hand side, we want to get the student actually thinking about their learning, creating those goals, becoming an active learner, and really just having the learning process be their own rather than someone who developed a scope and sequence saying this is what you learn in October through May, right? So that's something that we can do if we start to personalize our learning in Canvas. So thinking about mastery paths, right? How does mastery paths support that personalized learning? It's amazing how easy mastery paths in Canvas can support what we want to do around targeted instruction. So mastery paths and Canvas supports the teacher's use of technology to create, adapt, and personalize learning experiences that foster independent learning and accommodate learner differences and needs. And it can seem maybe a little bit daunting in the beginning because we're not really sure what we're doing. I promise you, if you follow some of the best practices that we're going to talk about tonight and play with it a couple times and have your students practice in one module at a time, by the time you get to your third module, you're going to be a master at it. It's going to be amazing. So the next few slides are talking about what is the process for setting mastery paths up in my Canvas course, okay? So the first thing that you need to do in every Canvas course that you want to use mastery paths, the very first time you're going to go to course settings, navigate to the course, obviously, go to course settings, you're going to click on settings, and then what you're going to do is you're going to click on feature options, which is over here. And then you're going to make sure that mastery paths is enabled. If it's enabled, it has a green check. That's really all you have to do. Once you do that in your course settings, the first time it's handled, you don't have to touch it again. But it's very important that you have mastery paths set up in your course. Now, if you go into feature options and you happen to not have the ability to turn mastery paths on for whatever reason, it might be grayed out, then what you would want to do is contact your Canvas administrator at your district and ask them to enable mastery paths. Every once in a while, that could be an issue. And is there a reason not to? I saw in the chat.
I got you. So, Kara, to answer your question, yes, your Canvas admin could already have this turned on for you all. So there's like three major options when it comes to feature sets inside of Canvas. It's like enabled means I turned it on for already for everybody. And then there's like an option to allow it. So this would be the option that Lorianne's talking about where the district admin has allowed it, but it may not be automatically by default turned on. And then there's, if you don't see it, it's disabled by default. Um, so yes, so whoever is, which I believe in Kannapolis is Heather, so she could turn that on for you guys if it's not on by default.
Yeah, for some reason it's not there. And sometimes it's just not, it's something that the Canvas admin has set up and said, well, I don't know if they'll need this, right? So it's just, a matter of asking to say, can you please turn this on? And then once it's on, you are able to enable it inside of your course without an issue. All right, so
I think I understand that. I guess what I'm asking is there a reason we wouldn't do the option where admin just enables it for every course automatically? Is there a downside to that?
Other than people getting
Yeah.
confused by not knowing how to use something because they haven't been trained on it is the only like,
Yeah. Because they will
Okay.
see mastery paths as an option, so they wouldn't know what it is. So yeah, I think that would
Okay.
be the downside. Just you wouldn't want to, start the confusion. It's sometimes it's
yeah.
easier, it's harder to fix a problem, right? Than it is to set up the training. That's a great question. Thank you. All right, so once you have enabled mastery paths, then you are ready to get started building your module. So you're going to build your module just like you would any other module, right? That you're not using mastery paths. So in this example right here, you see that I start my mastery paths module with a pre-assessment. That is very important because remember, we're thinking about targeted instruction, right? So you're going to want to build your Canvas module out completely. Everything, pages and discussions and quizzes and assignments, everything that you want in your module. You're going to want to have it to its completion before you start with mastery paths. You're going to always start with an auto-graded quiz. And the reason you want to have an auto-graded quiz is because the student's going to come in, they're going to interact with the pre-assessment. As soon as he or she answers the question, if it's auto-graded, they're going to be set on their pathway, right? If it's something that the teacher has to come in and grade, then they're going to be waiting on you to come in and take a look at their grades and give them a grade on their product. So you definitely want to have that pre-assessment just as an auto-graded true, false, multiple choice, that kind of thing, just so they can get an idea of where that you can get an idea, the student as well, of where they need to be, right? So you begin with that pre-assessment, and then you always end with the post-assessment. You always want to end with something at the end to measure their learning. That's just what we know as teachers to do, as far as good quality instruction. Now, when you're setting these up, it's important to know that when you enact mastery paths, only the items that are assigned to everyone will be the grades will be passed automatically to the gradebook. So the way that I set it up is I always start with a pre-assessment assigned to everyone. And then I go into the post-assessment at the end, always assigned to everyone, because then usually those are the options I want to send over, automatically into my Canvas gradebook. Everything that's in between, it's not going to have automatic grade passback because it may or may not be assigned. Well, essentially it's not assigned to everyone. It's assigned to mastery paths, right? So as I go through this module that you see here, maybe I score at the highest level. So I really have the pre-assessment, 2 activities, and then the final. If I score lower and I need some extra practice, I may be, doing 5 or 6 things. So it depends on the score of the student as to what they see in this module. And I saw something in the chat, Corey, but I didn't get a chance to read it before it popped away.
That's okay. I was just trying to make a comment and without having to interrupt you.
Oh,
So
it was
sorry.
you.
I was just letting them know that when you were saying passing back, that passing back to Power Teacher Pro in our Power School. So those assignments that are only assigned to everyone in the grade book. So thinking about that pre-assessment and that post-assessment, that's why they're good ideas.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, great pass back to your sis. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Or grade book of record.
Sure.
So, okay, so let's see. So I have like a little checklist here that I always go through when I'm building a mastery path. So first of all, I build my module out completely. I start with my auto-graded pre-assessment assigned to everyone. I always end the module with a post-assessment, and then I'm going to set the module requirements up so that students must complete all of the requirements and move through in a sequential order. And what that will do is that will set up the path wherever the student scores on their pre-assessment. It will set it up so they have to do certain things that you have identified, and they have to do it in an order so that they don't do the pre-assessment, skip over, do the post-assessment, and say, I'm finished, right? And then after you set up those requirements, you're going to turn on mastery paths within the module. And again, grade pass back into the SIS. If something is assigned to mastery path, it will not go to grade pass back. If it's assigned to everyone, it will. So let's take a look at pages. This is probably the most missed item in mastery paths, right? Because we build a page, and in a page, we're not expecting the student to do anything. So we're not looking at, assigning it to anyone, right? But what happens in order for this to fit into the Mastery Path module, you have to click the edit and go down at the bottom here. Get my mouse over there. And what you have to do is you have to click allow in Mastery Paths. And I'll tell you that the first time you don't allow the page in Mastery Paths, you're going to go absolutely crazy trying to figure it out. And then you're going to remember that you have to check that box. And then you're going to think, oh my gosh, I just wasted 20 minutes, right? So just if you can walk away and just remember that it's a page, even though it's not an assignment, you're going to have to assign it or allow it in Mastery Paths in order for it to be in the module or to be seen by the students. Then we take a look at the assignments, right? The assignments, the quizzes, the graded discussions. What you're going to want to do is, first of all, when you're building the assignment, just like you normally do, you're going to assign it a due date, right? And then you're going to assign it to Mastery Paths, not to everyone. If you remember, by default, when you're building something that is assigned to everyone, it'll say everyone, and you can click off. And then if you want to assign it to certain students, you can, you usually find their name. Well, this time what you're going to do is you're going to assign it to Mastery Paths. And what that does is that tells Canvas that within this module, this item, this graded item will be assigned to students depending on where you place it into the path, okay? So again, the initial quiz, you want it to assign to everyone, and the final assessment, everyone. All the other things are assigned to Mastery Paths, and those pages must be allowed to be in Mastery Paths. All right, so now we're going to think about actually building our Mastery Path. Now, when I first got started using my module, my Mastery Paths module, I would use this graphic organizer, and I'd be like, okay, let me think about this a second. At the very top here, I'm going to have my pre-assessment, right? And then knowing what my point range is for my pre-assessment, let's say that this is the highest score. So this is the students that I want them to do, A, B, and C, because these are the higher, maybe the higher level sort of activities, and maybe them in the middle, or you kind of assign it based on your scoring. It's pretty simple, but when you get into Canvas in the very beginning, it can be kind of nerve-wracking a little bit trying to figure it out. So here's a perfect example, and I have a couple best practices that I always use. They are just my normal to-dos. So here's the example here. So you're starting with the grammar pre-assessment, right? And here's one path. If the child scores 35 to 50 points, then he or she is going to see this page and then this peer support assignment, right? If the child scores between 20 and 34 points, they're going to see the page. What does the writing process look like? They're going to have the grammar, paragraph, and writing. Then they're going to have the quiz. And then you can see over here, the 0 to 20 points, you see they have a few more things to do because there may be some, front loading of information, some tutoring that needs to happen, right? So you as the teacher are thinking about everything that you have in your module, and you're like, okay, let me assign these paths in such a way that I'm giving those extra experiences to someone who may need it, and not asking the child who has already mastered the skill and just needs to demonstrate it to do, some of the things that would just be in maybe too easy for them, or considered a waste of time, which, depending. So if you look at the top of the screen, you'll see one box that says mild, medium, and spicy. And you'll see another box that says tutor, practice, and challenge. I love this graphic organizer, but the moment I get it into Canvas and I start trying to assign it, I'm just like, wait, which one did I want them to do? It confuses me. So this is what I do. Take what you like and leave the rest kind of thing. What I like to do is I like to assign mild, medium, and spicy to my activities. Mild means it's a lower level challenge. Medium, obviously. Spicy means it's a little more difficult. I like to call them that when I'm building, because that helps me to remember where I want it to go. Another way to do it is tutor, practice, and challenge, right? And you can see from this list here, if we were to assign tutor, practice, challenge to these titles, along with, maybe it would say tutor, grammar with Einstein, right? Practice, writing experience, responses, right? As the course designer, these are the items that help me to really understand that I'm putting the assignments, graded discussions, quizzes, all of those kind of things, pages in the right spot in the module, okay? So once you organize it, you get it onto your graphic organizer, you write it down, you think about how you're going to do it. The next thing is to come into the mastery path and actually build it. And what you do is you grab your assignments and you think about it and you're like, okay, you're putting them where they need to be. And you can see down here, we have 0 points, 20 points, 35, up to 50. So Canvas really parses it out for you as far as those points go, and you just start to add these items in there. I'm going to show you how to do that in a couple of minutes. Let's see. Yeah, I think the one thing I did want to say, so I don't forget, is notice that you have the little and sign here, the ampersand, right? If you click on it, you can change the and to an or, and I'll show you that one as well. So you can make it, you can do this, or it can be, you can do all three, right? And that's a really cool feature to add on now. All right, let's go to the next slide. So here's an example of that grammar pre-assessment that you as the teacher have completed. You have it assigned to mastery paths, and you can see here, this is the teacher view, mind you. So you can see how your points are assigning to the path, right? So this is going to be an item that a 35 to 50 point scoring child would be doing. This one's assigned to multiple paths. This one's 0 to 20. So Canvas is assigning these together for you and putting them in the right place so that when the students come in, they're going to see this before they interact in the module. You know, your module again looks like this, right? Behind the scenes that you see everything that's in the module. The student, when they come into your Canvas course and they come to the module, the first thing they're going to see is the grammar pre-assessment. And then notice it says locked until grammar pre-assessment is graded, right? So everything is locked from the student view. We normally do that with publishing and unpublishing. Everything is locked for the student until they get that score on that pre-assessment. Once they get that score, depending on where they fall, they're going to see different things in the mastery path. So you can see the 35 to 50 point student has 3 assignments that need to be done. The 34 to 20 or 20 to 34 point student, what is that? 4 assignments, right? And then we get into the 0 to 19 points, and you see that that student has a few more things to do, right? To get their skills up there so that they can hit that mastery. And that's really a simple way to look at building mastery paths, right? So when you're building it, there are a few considerations. First of all, you want to make sure that all of your content is in the same module, because you're essentially assigning all of that information in your module to the mastery path, right? So whatever you want the students to do within that mastery path, you're going to assign it in one module. The pages, again, pages need to be designated to work in mastery paths by checking the mark at the bottom that says allow in mastery paths. Assignments and quizzes must be assigned to mastery paths in order for it to follow in the correct flow. Again, if you're using grade passback, mastery paths does not pass back unless it's assigned to all students. Best practice is that first quiz, that last final assessment assigned to everyone. If you have files, and I have an example I'm going to show you in a minute with a file, URLs, external URLs, or external tools, right? Anything that you would normally just assign, you know, through the RCE, you're going to want to put it on a page and then allow that page, right? Because otherwise it's not going to go in the flow. It's not going to work within MasterPath. So for example, I'm going to show you in a couple minutes. I had a Newsela article that I wanted my students to read. So what I chose to do was, I could have used a link, but what I chose to do was I grabbed that Newsela article and I PDF'd it. And I put that onto my page in Canvas, and then I allowed the mastery path on that page. That way the students are seeing what I wanted them to see for the purpose of that activity, and then it's available in the mastery path. So anything that is kind of pushing them out into, you know, out of Canvas, you want to make sure that you put that into the page through the RCE, whether it be a link, a file, something like that, so that they can have that within the mastery path. Let's see what else we have on there. Okay, again, it talks about, you know, the content of the grade book again, right? Very important that it needs to be assigned to everyone. And honestly, I think that playing with this a little bit and just being gentle with yourself as you get started will help you to work out your own personal little bugs there. And just if you can remember to have your first pre-assessment assigned to everyone and then your last, you should be fine. Corey, can you guys see my Canvas course? Okay, good. Wanted to make sure. All right, so this is an old Mastery Path module that I had built, and I left it in here because I wanted to show you what it looks like. Again, we just looked at it a couple minutes ago on the PowerPoint, but this is essentially what the module looks like built, right? You can see it's assigned to Mastery Paths. We have the prerequisite of completing all items, and then you can see the point structure as it's designed here, right? This is set to multiple people within the multiple students or multiple pathways, I should say, multiple pathways, and then it's set to follow the different pathways. So here is a module that I've built, and I have it ready to assign to Mastery Paths, right? So first of all, just kind of want to go over again, what's the first thing you need to do is you need to go into settings. You need to make sure that Mastery Paths is enabled. So we're going to click settings, and then I'm going to go to feature options. And you can see here that Mastery Paths, as my mouse is being funky, has a check. And that means it's enabled in my course. That means I am able to build modules in Mastery Paths. And you find that by going to settings at the bottom of your course. I think it's hidden behind, there it is, sharing. And then you click on feature options, and then you'll find Mastery Paths here. If it's not enabled, it will be a red X, and you just enable it with the click there and the green check. Once you've done that, I'm gonna get rid of this guy. Once you've done that, you're ready to set up Mastery Paths in your module. So firstly, I'm going to have everything that I want to include in my module there. If it is a page, like I had a video, a YouTube video, right? So what I did is I grabbed that YouTube video. I happened to put it into Studio because I happen to have Studio. You may or may not, but you can put it as a link on the page. And then down at the bottom, let's edit this a second. Down at the very bottom, I checked right here where it says allow Mastery Paths, okay? So that's going to enable that page to be available within the Mastery Path. So you have to make sure that your pages are available. And if there's anything that I think Corey shared last time, if there's anything that he ever works with, it's usually the Mastery Path, the page is not allowed in Mastery Path. Seems to be a common thing. So again,
Absolutely.
here's my Newsella article that I chose to bring it in. Now I could have used the LTI. I chose to bring it in as a PDF because I knew that we wouldn't necessarily have connectivity within this Canvas course. So I just grabbed the figures of speech. It is a file that I have in my Canvas course, added it in here, have it ready for my students to read, right? And I made sure that I enabled Mastery Paths on the when I edited the page. All right, so I have my what do you know about figures of speech, my pretest. I have my show what you know as my final assignment. You'll notice that I have things written as mild, medium, and spicy because that's going to remind me, the course designer, that mild is going to be for the lowest scoring, medium for the middle pathway, and then spicy obviously for the highest pathway. So I enabled Mastery Paths. I have my pages, my assignments. Let's show one here. Let's go to mild, illustrate the figure of speech. So when I built this, I added for the assignments, I didn't, so I wanted to do it now. So I need to assign this to Mastery Paths. And then I'm going to click save. I will get this little error, and I'm getting this error because I don't have my module requirements set yet, okay? So it just means, are you sure? You're sure you don't want everybody to see this? So yes, I'm going to continue. I definitely don't want everyone to see that. So let me just go back into my modules and make sure that I have everything assigned appropriately. So figures of speech, this is my pre-assessment. So I'm going to make sure that this one is assigned to everyone with my due date, right? Then I go back to my module and I look at my video. We already know we checked that one. It is allowed mastery paths because it's just a page. This one is allowed mastery paths as well. I've got my mild illustrate the figures of speech, which I think is the one I just assigned to mastery paths, but let's make sure because I was talking and I didn't remember. So let's see. Yes, mastery paths with my due date. Click save. Going back to my module. That was my mild. Let's go into my medium. Right now it's set default to everyone. I'm going to go ahead and click it to mastery paths and I'll click save. Get my little warning. And then my spicy. Clicking my edit. Right now it's for everyone. So I'm going to go ahead and assign this one to mastery paths as well and click save. And then the last thing is the final assessment. And that should be assigned to everyone. So let's just make sure. Yes. Okay, perfect. So now I know that within this module, all of my pages and all of my assignments have been assigned properly. And the next thing that I want to do to get ready to do the mastery path is to go into the, my colleague calls it a skinny snowman, the 3 ellipses there. And I'm going to click edit and I need to set up my requirements, right? So for mastery paths, I'm going to add the requirement that the students must complete all of these requirements and they must complete this in a sequential order, okay? And then I'm going to add the requirements. So this one is, what do you know about figures of speech? We're going to submit the assignment. Adding the requirement for the next one, which is the, let's see, let's do the pages. I want them to view. Let's do the News Ella article. I want them to view. I'm going to go ahead and add the next one, which is the medium. Define the, oh, I guess I need to do the mild. Illustrate. I need the student to submit the assignment. I'm going to do the medium. Where are you, medium? Define. I want the student to submit the assignment. Put this down a little bit. I'm going into the spicy. I want the student to submit the assignment. And then we're going to add show what you know, and I want the student to submit the assignment. So now on my prerequisites, I have the student moving through the module in a sequential fashion, and I've set up whether I want the student to view the page or submit an assignment, and then I'm going to click update module. I'm gonna go ahead and click relock. And that just gave me that because as I was building, I was playing around in student view, right? So here I am. You have the requirements here, must complete all requirements. And now we are ready to move into mastery path. So the way that we do that is we come to the pretest. We click on pretest. And you'll see right here, because mastery paths is enabled. So earlier when the question was, is it bad to have mastery paths open? Again, that's going to be available. If it's just automatically open in your course, it'll be available for those that may or may not know how to use mastery paths. And you can see right here, here's my essentially my graphic organizer, right? Remember, I used mild, medium, and spicy, so it's going to help me out a little bit. So what I'm going to do is come down to the mild. I'm going to click plus. And I know that I want, the student to complete, Corey, help me out a second here. It's been a while since I've done this. Do I have to put the pretest in? I don't think I do, right?
I don't, because you're building the mastery
Yeah.
inside of
That's
the
what I thought.
pretest.
Thank you. I appreciate that. All right. So I have my other assignments in here, right? Because of what I built before. So I'm going to go with, I'm doing the mild, right? So I want the child to, let's see, where's my video? Here it is. I want them to watch the video. I'm going to add the Newsella article here again because I'm going to do something with that. I'm going to click the mild figure of speech, and then I'm going to click the show what you know, and I'm going to add the items. So you can see right there, this is what I'm asking the student who scores the lowest amount to do. Now, remember the little and sign here. I have a Newsella article and I have a video. So I'm going to actually click the and give them the option here. They can watch the video or the Newsella article, right? They get to have their little bit of choice in there. Then I'm going to come into the middle. So I have the mild here, so I'm building the medium now. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the video. I'm going to go ahead and add the article. I'm doing the medium, where are you? Define. And then I'm going to add the show what you know and add the items. Now on this one, I could choose to give the student, choice again, right? By clicking the or maybe I want the student to do all of them. It's really up to you as the teacher. Coming into the highest level of the mastery path, I'm going to go ahead and click it. I'm going to add the article. I'll add the video. I'll add the spicy. Maybe I also want to add the medium. Maybe I can decide that. And then I want to show what you know. And then I'm going to add the items. So that could be the option for the student, at the highest level. Maybe right here is the choice. You get to decide which one you do, right? So I've built my mastery path.
Before you hit build on that, I have so there are two things that I commonly see that when I'm working with teachers is these are the cut points. So keeping in mind what those values say. So if it says 4.8, so think of I'm not always the smartest math person in the world, but you have to remember that. So if a student scores up to a 4.79, they're going to be across in that bottom third. So that's where you really want to think about, and you can adjust those. So notice as those are text boxes there, so you could change that if you didn't want it to be 4.8, if you wanted it to be 5 or 6 or whatever. The other thing is the or is I like this because it gives you the option of having more than just 3 pathways. It gives the student even choice, even though they fall into one of 3 categories. The thing that I think is not quite as intuitive here, that I had to struggle with a little bit, is this or in the bottom one gives me choice between 1 or 3 things, but maybe I, as the teacher, still want them to take that summative assessment at the end. So what you can actually do in that is, Lorianne, if you don't mind indulging me, is adding the show what you know again into that bottom row. And now you see it's attached itself. So no matter which path my student chooses, they're still going to take my summative assessment at the end. And I really like that because now I have 4 pathways, if you will.
And as I said in the beginning, I always learn something new. So thank you, Corey. That's brilliant, actually, right? Because now I'm ensuring, and I because I haven't actually used it with students in such a long time, I forgot about that. You're exactly right. It makes it so that they have to take that show what you know. Thank you. Love it. I'm gonna miss learning from you. That's awesome. All right, so that's essentially building it, right? So now we have everything in there. We're going to click the build. And now the populates in a second, right? Now it is ready for is ready for me to get started as the students. Let me return here. There we go. Had to get there. So now you can see that Mastery Paths is ready, right? So this is essentially how you build it. We have 9 minutes and we just want to show you what it looks like really quickly before I take questions from a student perspective. So I'm going to go be Fred. I'm going to act as Fred in my course. And here is Fred's mastery path. You see that he has the quiz here. He knows that he has to do the final assessment, right? And then it's locked until he finishes it. So if I open it up here, figures of speech, what do you know about it? Basically says, look at the image here and then go ahead and I want you to sort the figures of speech into the proper category. This is one of our new quizzes for sorting. So the cake is calling my name. I'm just going to grab for now just to show you how it would work. Obviously, I'm not looking at what I'm dragging, but this is a nice way as a quick little, not so tedious pre-assessment, I think, for students. So they actually drag and drop, they click submit. It's an auto-graded activity. And then Fred will be able to move on and he'll see how he scored. And he will be able to move back into his mastery path. And you'll see it actually populates for him. I'm going to go back to here so you can see it. And now you can see that he has a choice. And he'll get to use his mastery path here to complete his assignments, right? So when we go back in, whoops, stop acting as user, come on, be nice to me. When we go back into the course as the teacher, you'll see that, the mastery path is built here and essentially the students are now starting to interact with their assignments as the teacher built it. So I'm going to stop talking because I always seem to go over and we run out of time for questions. So let's talk about what you saw tonight. Let's talk about any questions that you may have. If I don't know the answer, I am convinced that my friend Corey definitely knows the answer. So let's see if we can help you out. Talk to me.
Okay, I have a question. Can
Yeah.
you go back to the mastery path screen where you had all the paths set up and you had the ands and the ors?
Mm-hmm.
I think my question has to do with that very last thing that Corey was explaining. So on the lowest path, the mild path, that or, does that separate everything on the left into one path and everything on the right into another? Yes, you're nodding
Yeah.
yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
As
Essentially.
opposed to when you before you put that post assessment there on the left, I thought it was just letting them choose between the video or the article, and then no matter which one they chose, they would move into the other tasks. But you're saying if I wanted them to choose between the video and the article, but also have that mild assignment, I would have to put the mild assignment on both the left side and the right side, and the post assessment on the left and the right.
I believe
As a non-English teacher, I would say it's all about where the separator is. And so I was a science teacher. So
yeah.
because of where that or falls is where it determines what those groupings are.
Okay.
Yeah. And what I just did is I took the pre-assessment out because I wanted to see what that did. I took it out of that mild because I was thinking about it, Corey. I'm sorry, not the pre-assessment, the show what you know. If I remove the show what you know, because that's essentially it's assigned to everyone, right? So let me build that a second. So I took the show what you know out, I took the post assessment out, right? So let's go back here to the module. And it's mastery paths. Whoops, I must have deleted one by mistake. So if you look here, I think what you would do, what's this one? Mild. Let me pull the mild back in. It's not published for some reason. Let's see. Mild. Okay, so the mild has video, Newsella article, the video or Newsella article, and then illustrate figure of speech. See if that is. Just not published. Okay. Fred was a mild, I believe, right? Let's go pretend to be Fred a second and see what he sees. All right, so Fred took his first quiz. Now he has two options, and then he still has to show what you know. So if we leave the final assessment out and I click on Fred's choices here. Okay, so Fred has a video or the Newsella article. So if you pull that final assessment out, then you truly have the or. Is that, Kara, was that you that asked that question?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, all of that helped. And
Yep.
so unless you had put that illustrate the figures of speech connected to the video also, they wouldn't be prompted to do that at all.
Correct.
That makes complete sense. Thank
Yep.
you.
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. Anything else? What are your thoughts around Mastery Pass? Does it feel like it's a little more usable than it did, you know, what, 53 minutes ago? I hope that made the difference. That was the purpose, right?
It does for me. I do have another question, but I'm being respectful and pausing and seeing if these other guys do before I keep talking.
Anybody else have a question?
No, please ask your question. The other one was a great question. It really helped me.
Now I feel a lot of pressure.
Kara is our spokesperson for the evening. Go ahead, Kara.
Okay. This is kind of out of left field, but I use Canvas a lot for PD modules. And I guess my specific question is, does the initial assessment, does it always have to be point-based? Could it be all truly optional from the beginning? Obviously, I know that's not personalized by ability, it's personalized by preference. But if I wanted to allow a teacher to take a path in some way and I want to set it up using Mastery Path. Or here's another thing. Our English team has used this to do book clubs. So
Yep.
their assignments change depending on what book they're reading at the time. And then within their book choice, they wanted to offer, do you want to listen to the book or read a PDF? And so we were trying to do options, but there really aren't points. So all we could think of to do was say, like, do you want to read this book? Yes or no. And then you get 1 point if you said yes. And so we still had to make it point-based. Does it have to be like that always?
So yeah, for Mastery Paths, because that's really around the targeted instruction from data, right? So it has to start with a point value, something with point values in order to give you those three options. I think what you're talking about is another aspect of personalized learning, which would be playlists, right? So essentially what you're saying is, do you want to learn this way or do you want to learn this way? And then what you could do is you could have a page set up that would take them to, like in playlists, the way I've done it before is we have the may do and the must do. And within a playlist, I may have, let's say I have 8 things within my playlist, right? My may do things, and I just usually up here, I would title it, it would not be in Master Paths, I would say may do, right? So I would title it may do and whatever the item is. And then the must do's are the things that I'm using to allow you to demonstrate your learning, right? Whether it's for PD or for a K through 12 classroom or even a higher ed. I think what you're talking about is playlists, and I could follow up with some information that I personally have gathered from Ed Elements. They do a great thing on playlists. I'm more than happy to grab that information. I have it in a file somewhere, and I can forward it that way, and then Corey could send it to you. I think that's what you're talking about is more playlists than you would be Master Paths, because you're doing it through the choice, and it's not based on data points, right?
Yep, that makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. Shelly, how about you? I see your name because you were the last one to talk.
No, I'm just excited to try it. I'm a first-year teacher, and I saw this just I saw this pop up and I've looked at it a lot, and I'm excited to put something in motion to really get this started. I don't know if I'll put this in for this year or if it'll be something that I start building on for the next year.
And I love that. First of all, welcome. Welcome to the greatest profession in the world. We welcome you. My suggestion would be to start small, honestly. Start with a little pre-assessment, have 3 activities, and then let the students have their pathway, right? Start small for you. Maybe it's something that you're doing as an end of the week assessment on, whatever novel you've been reading or something like that. Start super simple, mild, medium, spicy. And then as you get better and you understand it a lot better and you kind of problem through it like Corey and I did today, you'll be like, oh yeah, I can absolutely do this. And you'll be amazed at how quickly it'll grow.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Anybody else? I'll stop sharing my screen for a second, but I'm more than willing to hang out and just kind of chat about, any questions you guys have. I'm always excited to meet with people who think like I do. I love meeting with fellow educators. I'm going to write down, I need to find my, I'm going to send you, Corey, Core 4 from Education Elements and playlists. And if you could pass that on, I'm telling you, they are just the gurus of personalized learning. They're amazing.
I just want to say thank you. Added
Absolutely.
a needed layer to that and clarified a few things for me.
Thank you. Yeah, my pleasure.
I am going to pause the recording.